What is going on, guys? Ryan Nelson here, and today I wanted to take a look at these 3 lenses. Very high-end, very quality lenses. I've got the Canon EF-1.2L series. I've got the new Canon RF 50mm 1.2L, and then I've got the Sigma 50mm 1.4 art lens. What's the difference in these? What is the similarities? And which one is going to be the best bang for your buck? If you have the old 50L series, do you want to spend the money for this new RF one? I don't know. We're going to find out. Let's go on, let's take a look and see what the differences are. So just comparing the 2 Canon lenses right now, this one has been around for quite a while, but if you have it, is it worth getting this lens, which is almost twice the size and heavier? But it does have a control ring, so you can control your aperture or your shutter speed or your ISO, whatever you want, right from the lens. No more doing it on the camera because that was so obnoxious to begin with. But some people like it. I don't know. I haven't found it to be useful. So I set this up with a few different tests. Wait, what? Oh yeah, the jacket? Yeah, sorry, I recorded that intro a few days ago while I still had the lenses, but I've since sent them back. I just wanted to make sure I had the lenses in the video. Anyway, a few days later, we're talking about the lenses. Let's go. So as I was saying, I did a few different tests with these lenses. If you've seen this video up here, I've already shown a few of these examples. I've done a couple of more, but I just compared a few extra 50mm lenses in that video as well. So if you're looking something more along the budget line, go ahead and check out that video. I've got anywhere from $47 all the way up to the $2,300 RF lens. So tests we're looking at today, we're looking at chromatic aberration, we're looking at depth of field, we're looking at focus speed, we're looking at a studio setup, and we're looking at several different portraiture style shots. Let's take a look. So in the first test, we're checking out the chromatic aberration, seeing what the difference is, seeing which one's good, which one's bad, and which ones hold up better in this high contrast situation. And along with this chromatic aberration test, just to mention, so you know, these were all shot at f2. So the 3 things I'm looking at in this comparison are the lights in the parking garage, the front of this truck, and then this big highlight on the window. Looking at the Sigma, see a tiny bit of purple fringing over here in this highlight. If we look up in the parking garage, there's almost 0 fringing going on up there. And then if we look at the truck front, it's actually pretty clear. So moving on to the Canon EF-1.2, if we look at that truck front, it's maybe not quite as crisp as the Sigma, and you're seeing a little red around the chrome. If we move over to the highlight, we do still see a little bit of purple fringing, maybe not quite as bad as the Sigma, which still wasn't even that bad. And then moving up to the parking garage, you're definitely seeing a little bit of red fringing around that light versus the Sigma, but that fringing is way worse. So if we go down to the RF, we're seeing just a hairline maybe of the purple there, and we are still seeing just a hint of detail on the grate that's over the light. Looking at the truck front, oddly it's actually kind of fuzzy, and there is some red fringing there. And then take a look over at that highlight. That's probably the best one right there with almost 0 fringing. There's just a hint of purple in there, but overall that one looks pretty good. As an overall, I'm gonna say the Sigma did pretty good in the chromatic aberration test. For the next test, we're looking at the depth of field. What I'm looking for is kind of that creamy, just super silky smooth roll off on the focus. So each one of these, I tried to focus about halfway down the brick wall so you get a little bit of that foreground out of focus and the background out of focus. Looking at the Sigma, foreground is nice and creamy. And then when we start rolling off into the background, I mean, it's looking pretty good. It's, you know, there's no real harsh lines that are interfering with each other there. We're not getting any weird patterns. Overall, it looks pretty good. Moving down to the Canon EF-1.2, foreground looks, again, a little creamy. It's out of focus, which is what it's supposed to be. And then as we go down that wall looking out of focus, something about these no parking signs over here, just the lines get a little funky and just make me a little dizzy. I don't know about you, that's just me. Not digging that. Other than that, it's looking pretty creamy as it rolls off. And then looking at the Canon RF, that foreground is a little bit sharper, but then if we look at our focus point, it is maybe about a foot closer, which would explain that. Looking at the roll off going down the wall, This is probably the creamiest roll-off that we have out of the group. Everything just disappears back there. It's really, really nice. It's better than the Sigma, but for half the price, that Sigma is looking really good. Really, really good. The next test we're taking a look at is a studio setup, very controlled. Nothing was changed in this except for the lenses. No movement in what I'm shooting, no movement in the lighting. Very controlled. So let's take a look, see what the difference is. So overall, looking at these, I really don't see that much difference. The one thing I do notice is the Canon EF, its focus is just a little bit shifted from the rest of these. And I did notice that as a common theme throughout all these tests is that Canon EF 1.2 did miss the critical focus point more often than not. And I was kind of disappointed in that. But other than that, looking at these, there may be like slight variations in the colors on each lens. But overall, I think in studio, these are very, very close lenses. As long as you get that focus right, you're not gonna notice much of a difference in any of these lenses, at least in this test. First up for our portrait test is an outside shot, backlit, kind of a sunny day, a little bit cloudy, but the sun was shining through. Just kind of wanted to see how this handled being backlit with focusing, sharpness, and all that. Just so you know, each one of these was shot wide open. Taking a look at this first one, we have the Sigma, definitely very sharp. Look at that eye, it's just tack sharp, and that's right exactly where I focused. The fall off is pretty nice. The back eye falls out of focus very nicely and not very distracting, which is what we're looking for in a very wide open lens. So moving on to the EF lens, like I just mentioned, I found that this lens missed the critical focus more often than not, and this was no exception. This is going to be almost I'm not gonna say an unusable image, but if you're shooting a job, that's not gonna fly. Sorry, Canon EF 1.2, not my favorite. Now looking at the Canon RF lens, we see that eye is definitely tack sharp. That fall off is looking really nice. The skin tones came out really beautiful. You can tell it's a house in the background, but not distracting. So once again, the RF is looking really good, but at half the price, the Sigma is also looking very good. So for the second portrait test, I was in more of a shaded alleyway, and the focus here was on the back eye, and we were shooting all of these at f2. Looking at the Sigma, it's looking really good. That back eye is in focus, right where I wanted it to be. The light fall off is looking pretty nice. Focus fall off is looking pretty nice. So we're going to move on to the Canon EF 1.2. Again, that lens missed the focus. I'm just so disappointed at this lens costing as much as it does. It just cannot seem to find that focus point. And then moving to the Canon RF 1.2, it's looking really good. Found that focus point right where I wanted it. Focus fall off, once again, looking really nice. Light fall off, looking really nice. Again, the Canon RF and the Sigma art lens, very comparable. Taking a look at the last example here, we have a full-length portrait looking down the sidewalk, so we're seeing that depth of field fall off again, and then the focus point was obviously the face. So focus on the Sigma, nailed it, looks pretty sharp, especially from being that far away. We're not really seeing fine details in the eyelashes, but again, pretty far away on this one. I did notice a tiny bit of purple fringing in the jacket with the Sigma, and this seemed to be a common theme throughout the lenses. Moving on to the Canon EF lens, the fringing, it's almost kind of like a halo effect here. It's really bad with the jacket. And then as we move up to see that focus point, it's just a hair soft. It looks like it more focused towards the back of the head versus the face. Taking a look at the RF, definitely still some fringing on the jacket. And then as we move up, the face is definitely sharp. Once again, not necessarily seeing exact details of the eyelashes. It's still pretty far away, so I wasn't really expecting to see that fine of a detail in it. So again, between the Sigma and the Canon RF lens, very close to each other. Both have a little bit of fringing. The Sigma might be a tiny bit worse. Again, for half the price of the RF, you can deal with it. Focus speed tests on these, basically what I did was I racked focus all the way out, tested focus to go almost all the way in, and then vice versa. I racked focus all the way in and tested to see how long it would take to focus all the way out. Results of this were minimum to maximum. Sigma was 0.54 seconds. The Canon EF 1.2 was 1 second. The RF 1.2 was 0.91 seconds, so almost a full second. And then maximum to minimum focus, Sigma was at 0.37, the EF was at 0.46, the RF was at 0.42, a lot closer with the maximum to minimum focus, but overall the Sigma lens focus was just like that, like lightning fast, almost a half second faster from the minimum focus out to infinity. Pretty fast, I'm digging it. So after taking a look at all of these, I'm gonna send myself back to my past self to wrap this up. Take it over, past self. So I do have to say, looking at all of these examples, the best bang for your buck is gonna be this Sigma lens. It's got a super fast focus on it. The sharpness is just there. It doesn't have a whole lot of fringing, a whole lot of chromatic aberration. Overall, it's a really solid build, a really solid lens. I might actually think about upgrading my 50 in the near future. Maybe, maybe not sure. But highly recommend this lens. Check it out. I'll link it below. If you've got the budget, if you want to spend the money for it, get the RF lens for the new mirrorless line. Otherwise, check out this Sigma lens. It's a really great value, especially for just under $1,000. So if you want to try out any of these three lenses, check out borrowlenses.com. Not sponsored by them, I've just had really good experiences, so I want to give them a plug. Plus, my favorite part about renting from Borrow Lenses is this. You can rent a cowbell. More cowbell. $2 a week. $2 a week for more. $2 a week from borrowlenses.com. Just made that up. It's really bad. I promise I will never, ever do that again. But seriously, check out borrowlenses.com. They have a great selection of gear. I've always had a good experience renting from them. I hope you do too. I hope you guys like this video. If you do, hit me that thumbs up button down there. Hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And I will see you guys next time.